Good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. So I know there's a lot of you out here that are worried about the upcoming election. Many of you probably got your eyes glued to your computer screen or to your TV screen. You're keeping a close eye on the election. Many of you are discouraged about the way that this economy is going. And for one reason or another, there's a lot of you that are choosing to not work. Or if you're working, you're contemplating on quitting your job. I mean, I've noticed that there's been a growing number of content creators that are making videos of men quitting their jobs and men checking out of the workforce. And one excuse that I notice keeps coming up over and over again. I mean, outside of the economy not being the best, one excuse that I notice comes up over and over again is more men are checking out of the workforce because more men are feeling as if they're not being appreciated in the workforce. Another reason that I know this comes up is, well, you got more men that are single and are not dating because the expectations of a woman and what she wants out of a man have become uh, unreal in many cases. So, due to it being harder for men to be able to find a woman to date, due to, I guess you can say, the lack of opportunities for men anymore to get action in the bedroom, you got more men that are thinking, okay, well, since I'm not dating, I'm not starting a family, I don't plan to marry, why the heck do I need to participate in the workforce? Why do I need to work a 40, 50, 60 hour work week? For what? What's the purpose? What's the point? And uh, and I gotta say, now, I would say several years ago, when I first heard content creators talk like that, I used to uh, I used to take their side on that. I used to be like, yeah, okay, that sound okay, yeah, I understand what they're saying. Now, that had that has never been my philosophy personally, but for those who philosophy that is, back in the day, I used to respect that. But I guess the older I get and the more I learn about life, my thoughts about certain things tend to change. And this is one of them. I mean, I find it disturbing that men, especially younger men, are deciding to not participate in the workforce because they they feel some kind of way. They don't feel they're being appreciated, or maybe the type of work that they're able to do at the time may not be the pay may not be high enough to where they'll be able to wow a woman to where she will want to be with him and he can get action in the bedroom. I mean, quite frankly, I find those reasons kind of lame to be, if I wanted to be quite frank. Now, when it comes to going to work, I mean, like I told you guys before, although I like my job, I I can't say I'm real crazy about working a 9 to 5. However, when it comes to work, and I feel this is the philosophy that men need to have when it comes to work, especially younger men. And I made a video, I want to say maybe, I don't know, a couple of months or so ago, and I believe the video was titled, Make Your Job About You. And I would love for you guys to go back and watch that video. But since you're watching this video, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, when it comes to going to work, you got to make work about yourself. You can't worry about, you can't worry about what some woman is going to think about the job you work. You can't worry about what some woman, or for that matter, what anybody is going to think when it comes to your income. And also, when it comes to work, you can't, you know, you can't always stay focused. I mean, you can't get so zeroed in on politics and get so zeroed in on what they're saying about the economy that you lose focus on what it is that you're on whatever goals that you have. Now, for those of you that are just working to get a check and you don't really have any type of goal set for yourself, financially speaking, that's mistake number one that you're making. You need to sit down and develop some financial goals for yourself. And whatever those financial goals might be, and obviously you're going to want to be realistic with these goals. So, whatever those financial goals might be, maybe it might be to save up money for a down payment for a house. And maybe you're wanting to do that within, let's say 2 years. Maybe it might be to, maybe you've just purchased a home, or you purchased a home, within the last couple of years or so. And you might want to pay off that house in 15 years. You don't want to go 30 years. You want to pay it off in 15 years. If you're able to and you're smart, you maybe want to pay it off in 10 years. Maybe you got some debt and you want to get rid of your debt as soon as possible. So you can free up that money to fund your retirement. Or you can take some of that money and do a little bit of traveling, maybe a few times a year. So when it comes to work, the first thing that I would say men need to do, now I guess females can do the same thing, but primarily on this video I'm talking to men. I would say the number one thing you need to do, you need to set yourself financial goals. No matter what they're saying on the news about the economy, or on any media source for that matter about the economy, you need to stay focused on your financial goals. And you need not to concern yourself with what other people think about the kind of work you do, or what other people may think in terms of what kind of money you might make. And for those of you men that are single, don't worry. As I told you guys before, I'm gonna tell you guys again. Don't worry about finding Mrs. Right. The best thing that you can do as a man is be your authentic self, live your life as you would normally, show up to work and do your job as you would normally, and one day, whatever woman that you're supposed to be with, that you should be with, will eventually come into your life. I'm not saying she will, I'm not saying she won't. I'm just saying that's the best policy to keep. I mean, don't check out of the workforce because you feel society doesn't appreciate you. Now, if you feel that society doesn't appreciate you, guess what? You're probably right. Society does not appreciate you as a man. You're probably right. Society does not care about you as a man. But as a man, guess what you need to do? You need to suck it up, and you need to suck it up, and I guess put on your big boy pants and get out here and do what it do. That way you can make the money that you need to make to meet your financial goals. Even if you can't meet all of your financial goals, you can at least meet some of them. And then there's a lot of you that want to compare today's economy to what it used to be 20 years ago. And honestly, that's not going to do you no good. I mean, the way things were 20 years ago, okay, it may have been better for many of us, but what good is it going to do to drill on that today? It's not going to do you no good to drill on what happened 20 years ago today. And as much as I disagree, I mean, as much as I'm against a bunch of migrants and quote unquote illegals being in this country, taking up a lot of the American jobs, I do gotta say, uh, you know, you can't even allow that to slow you up when it comes to figuring out ways to legally meet your financial goals. I mean, yeah, wages today are probably lower than they were back in the day when adjusted for inflation, but what are you going to do? I mean, yeah, there's things you can do about it, but until you have those resources to do what needs to be done in that regard, your best bet is to go ahead, work that 9 to 5. Don't check out of the workforce. I mean, if you choose to check out of the workforce, what are you going to gain? I mean, for many of you, if you check out of the workforce, you're going to probably be living in your mom's basement. Or you might one day end up homeless because you don't got no money. Now, my attitude is, let's say you're working a job that pays you $20 an hour. Now, maybe 20 years ago, $20 an hour could have afforded you in a could have afforded you an apartment in, let's say, a upper working class community. As we're today, that same $20 an hour will, depending on what part of the country that you reside on, may only afford you an apartment in a lower working class neighborhood. So a lot of you guys are doing those kind of comparisons, and you're thinking, man, what the hell am I going to get up and go to work for if I can't even live today the same way that my parents were able to live, let's say, 20 years or so ago? See, my attitude is, I'd rather have that apartment in a lower working class community and be working and making my $20 an hour than to not work at all and not be able to afford nothing at all. And consequently be out here in these streets. And I feel that's the way that a lot of you men, especially you younger men, need to think. I mean, yes, times right now are challenging. Yes, the economy is uncertain. Yes, this country, unfortunately, is being flooded with a bunch of illegals and migrants. And yes, many of us, myself included, are concerned about what's going on in the country. But we can't allow that to stop us from doing what we gotta do in order to survive, in order to improve our lives. We gotta keep on going. We just gotta keep it moving. I mean, as men, and anymore, even for the ladies out here, we cannot afford to sit around and get into our emotions about, I'm not going to go to work because my boss does not appreciate the work I do. Well, you know what? They probably don't appreciate the work you do. They probably do take your work for granted. But guess what? You're at that job because you need the money to take care of yourself and to pay the bills. And if you're smart and that job doesn't pay enough for you to do everything you need to do, you would get a second job and then you would have some financial goals to, like I was discussing earlier in the video. I mean, who wants to work two jobs? Who wants to work 50, 60 hours a week? Hell, who even wants to work 40 hours a week? I would say that most of us don't. However, what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to not work and not have any money and not be able to eat fresh fruits and vegetables? Not be able to eat good food? I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to live in the streets? Are you going to live in some tent community? Are you going to have to resort to, let's say, the Salvation Army for your food because you choose not to work and earn your keep in society? I mean, so for those of you that choose not to work, is that the route you're going to go? Or are you going to put on your big boy pants and understand that yes, society is messed up, but I gotta get out here and do what I gotta do to not starve out in these streets, to have a roof over my head and all that type of good stuff. So, uh, I mean, I don't exactly know what I'm gonna title this video. I'll figure it out before I post it, but you know, I guess my question to you men are, for those of you men that are contemplating on quitting your job or you're not even trying to look for a job because you think the odds are stacked against you if you choose to work a 9 to 5. Like I said, most likely they are. And most likely, you know, your boss does not care two shits about you. That most likely that's the truth. But despite any of that being true, my question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do in order to survive? How do you plan to better your life? How do you plan to take care of yourself, not just for today, but in the future? If you sit around and you choose not to work, that's not going to be the answer. Sitting around not working is going to get you living in these streets and homeless and having to eat out of trash cans. Or if you're lucky, you might be able to get you a bag from the Salvation Army or something. I'd rather see you guys get out here and participate in the workforce and work that 9 to 5 until you figure out something better that's feasible that you can do. That way, especially you younger men, especially you younger men. And that's all I gotta say on this one. I mean, I know I may have rambled off a little bit, but I hope you guys understand the message on today's video. So on that note, everybody stay blessed out here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.